They wanna know about Islam, we'll give them da'wah. They wanna know what a Muslim does, we'll give them da'wah. When they wanna hate on our deen, we'll give them da'wah.
And this was one of the proof that the Arabs, pagans, mushriks at that time, who were believed in idols, they accepted Islam because they knew that this is not the works of any man. It cannot simply be. So Allah gave certain things as a proof and evidence to believe itself that it's from Him. So this, in your journey, my friend, in your journey of Islamic rediscovery, remember, Musa a.s. was a Muslim. His religion was Islam. People don't understand that. People don't realize that. Allah did not accept a religion or send a religion other than Islam. And what is Islam?
What is Islam?
Islam, an Arabic word, it means sincere submission and surrender to the will of God. Musa a.s., Prophet Moshe.
You believe in Islam?
Of course, I cannot be a Muslim without believing in him. Ibrahim a.s., Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him. Did these two prophets willingly and sincerely submit their will to the will of the one true God? Yes, they did.
I mean, he nearly killed his son.
But yes, that state of submission,
That story in the Quran.
that state of submission and surrender is called Islam. And one who does that is a Muslim. So Ibrahim a.s. is a Muslim by that definition. Musa a.s. is a Muslim.
I mean, it's the same person.
Yes,
That's the point.
same
That's
person.
right.
So
I think we should put. I know it sounds just hold the difference, and that's how Muslims.
but I'm saying your Abraham is our Abraham, the same person. So now,
Listen, you don't have to tell me this.
exactly.
I know that
So now, when we're talking about Abraham and Moshe, peace be upon these two prophets, they were Muslims by that definition. So when God chose a way of life for people and for the prophets, that was that way of life called Islam. So when I'm asking you to take that journey is the journey of rediscovering of Islam, the same Islam that all the prophets worked in the past, and finalized and culminated and totally perfected in the last and all the final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what I'm inviting you to, as a Jew, to come back to the reconnection with God, reconnecting back to God, reconnecting back to the same religion, same way of life called Islam. I'm not asking you to, or inviting you to a new religion, to a new way of life, but it's the same way of life that God mandated for every human being from day one until the end of the world. So when you examine the Quran, one thing I've offered you is the unique feature of the Quran. So two things, I apologize. One is the universal nature of the Quran. It has a universal significance in terms of its guidance and message, rules, legislation, so on. And the other thing I mentioned about the inimitability, how the Quran is inimitable. You cannot produce something like it as a proof of its divine guidance. So when you open up the Quran, ask yourself, ponder and so on and so forth, can it be indeed from the God that I believe in? What do I need to see? What do I need to see to make myself convinced that it is from God? These are the things we should be discussing. I can give you certain criteria to look out for, where you should use this criteria to say, okay, that's how I will examine the Quran, as it's from God or not.
Yeah, I don't believe in dropping my social belief. I don't want to drop my social belief. I'm sure, I know, because I mean Judaism and Islam are very similar. They have, I mean,
the extension from Judaism to Islam should be one journey.
Yes,
one same journey.
But my parents stopped being. Well, my dad came from a very orthodox family and suffering from reform for a reason, and to drop that to drop my liberal values to go back to that God, it's not something I can do yet. Okay. But
in the day of judgment. Do
you know Jews don't believe in heaven and hell?
In the day of judgment. So what do you think? Do you think that God created this life? People use their freedom of choice, Some people do it wisely, some people do it unwisely, and they kill and murder and rape and all that thing. And at the end result, there is no.
One of the Jewish sages said that after life you just read Torah, and if you love it, then it's heaven.
This is not how it's.
I know, but not in Islam, but that's the Jewish interpretation. One of the Jewish
but
interpretations.
ask yourself this question: if the end results of the good and the bad are the same, where is justice?
What do you mean?
If the end result of the good and the bad are the same, there is no justice.
Yeah, but I also believe that homosexuality shouldn't be punished by death. All these other things, and they're conflicting.
Perhaps we should believe that even we should be eating vegetables, we should be eating fish, we should be eating chicken because it's harming life.
Yeah.
Do you eat vegetables?
Yeah, but I eat meat. A lot of.
And meat as well, but why? You should stop eating meat because you're harming others. It's not about sinful, but what you realize is there are certain provisions God has provided that we take other life like chicken and cows and lambs and so on with the permission of God, their life, so that we sustain our life.
So what do you think about? Let's just go back to.
When it comes to homosexuality, the tendency itself is not a crime. People having some kind of tendency of relationship with the same sex, that's not a crime. That's not a crime. Acting upon it in public, that's a crime within a society in which the laws are implemented.
But it's legal to have gay sex in the park, and it's illegal to have heterosexual sex in the park.
In this country it's okay.
No, it's illegal. If you have sex in public, it's illegal.
What I'm saying, in an Islamic society, it tries to maintain the stability of the society and says you cannot do these acts in public.
But in the current Islamic society,
there is no current.
But in the current society, which calls itself Islamic, they take it to a degree which I perceive as disgusting and wrong. That they kill people, and that's why one of the things. If I was a Muslim, I would stay with. If I was a devout Muslim, I'd stay with my devout belief and believe in Sharia law. But I wouldn't want that implemented in this country until the world is sorted out.
When Islam says harsher punishment certain crimes, the reason it's harsh is because the crime is quite magnificent magnitude in its worth.
But do you think
that is why certain crime.
But do you think public homosexuality isn't that bad?
You see, look, okay, fine. Let's understand something.
We're going back in circles. You know?
During the Roman times and the Greek times, they were having this kind of relationship, left, right, and center, and other things. Why didn't that society flourish and maintain like that? Why did it suddenly disappear out of all existence? Why are there only buildings left and potteries and certain artifacts? Why? If a society can flourish and progress with this kind of behavior, why didn't they flourish and progress and preserve and maintain its identity with this kind of liberal sexuality? Why not? Why didn't it maintain it?
Well, religion kept a lot of people back.
No. Let's go back to these issues of sexual liberty, right? Having sex with anything.
I agree with
having sex with trees and animals and your family. No. Don't call it incest because this is the relationship people have.
Disgusting as well.
But
listen.
Is incest disgusting?
I don't want to have this conversation about homosexuals because I'm not here to defend homosexuals because I'm not a homosexual.
Very good. Okay. Because you raised this issue, what I'm saying is this kind of liberal understanding of sexual orientation. Look, this society has legislated, so we are not going to say this is something that you are not allowed to do. Society allows it to happen.
That's what I'm saying. You can have your belief in it.
But we will say that as a believer, I
could have my Jewish belief that it's sinful, but I shouldn't implement that in the law.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we can also have a right as a believer and say, look, this is yours. You accept it, you apply it, but I am not going to say this is a good thing because according to our guidance from God, it is not a good thing. Whether you like it or not, whether you disagree with it or not. But we are not going to say just because of you're practicing it, I'm going to go against you. No, we cannot be homophobic. Yeah,
exactly.
So what I'm saying is, you find it difficult for the implication of certain laws that has punishment associated with it. But I'm saying the punishment is quite restrictive and restricted. Right? In its application, in its atmosphere, in its environment.
And politics are politics. We've already had this conversation. The people. they fuck up and can't implement laws properly.
Yeah. So
that could be the.
So what we are asking for, we want to implement the guidance of God in our lives. So as Muslims, we try to implement in a Muslim country, for example. Okay.
But do you think that should be the law, or do you think that should be the guidance?
If a guidance is not legislated in a state level, then people do their own thing. Then there will not be a prosperity and harmony and stability in a society. That is why there are societal laws. When it comes to Islam as a final religion, your reconnection and new discovery should not exclude this kind of legislative aspect as well, because if God is going to give you guidance, he has to give you guidance for the society as well, not for your own individual self, what you do behind closed doors.
But society can be governed by rules without them being legal, without legal implications.
Let's understand one thing. If society needs laws and God gives guidance, would we not expect God should also give guidance for society?
I never said that we shouldn't.
Right. So that means if our understanding is having some difficulty in terms of its harshness of certain laws, maybe we need to understand how society functions, how society should behave. Because if we have, to give you one example.
Why can't you be a Muslim and understand that Allah has given you the way that society should behave? That at this moment right now, it's impossible to reach that way. Why is that not tolerable?
What we are saying is this.
Do you agree with that?
What we are saying is
you said that
to implement Islam, it has to have its certain areas of implementation in its entirety, a particular law. Likewise, if the Algerians.
But what would you say? I agree with you, but what would you say if Israel started implementing law? Like, because I'm not an Orthodox Jew, I think it's ridiculous that Israel are putting laws in which make Arabs, Muslims, second-class citizens.
So if Israel wants to implement a law, it has all the right to implement this law. But what we are discussing here is the law that is going to be implemented. Is it a right and a just law for everyone? It should be the right and a just law for its own citizens as well as the other faith community which are also its citizens. Yeah. So if Israel is going to implement a law which considers Muslim Palestinians like our second-class citizens with no rights, that doesn't look like a just law to me.
But what about what about if you're a citizen of this hypothetical, idealistic Sharia law country?
Yeah.
But you don't like one of the laws that's being implemented. What does Sharia law say that should happen to you? So for example, English guy a few years ago went to a protest in Saudi Arabia, 15 years in prison, I think. So what is actual Sharia law, not what the corrupt stuff?
So I don't know what Saudi Arabian law is in this matter. So if Saudi says, for example, in terms of drug dealing, right? If you do protest, for example, and a Saudi law which is clearly written, and it says if you do that, then this is the punishment, then you should have known that already.
But don't you think it's right that people should be able to dispute their laws? No, but you said that law should be just.
Remember, in any country,
this message from Allah,
in
any
country, when a law is implemented, legislation has happened, and the law is applied, you can't just simply say,
it's like let me tell you, if the UK issued a ban on Muslims, I'd be out on the street smashing shop windows, burning tyres. I'm breaking the law.
If they managed to pass this law, other people coming to Britain, England, should know that Muslims are not allowed, for example. And if you come here, you go straight into prison. So to come here, to kick out here, and you shouldn't be complaining because they have already passed the law. You might disagree with the law.
Do all Muslims share that? That they don't argue against the society?
You see, we're conflating two things. One is when a law is already applied, being applied, and the other thing is disagreeing with the law. You can disagree with lots of things.
But you should be able to tell that. I can't see a religious perspective of not being like in Judaism. You have to obey. It's quite a vague law, commandment. It's a mitzvah, so it's a good commandment to obey the law of the land you live in. But the Jews South Africa, say under apartheid, I'm a South African Jew. They were the lawyers and the people who fought for Nelson Mandela. They broke many laws, and they're sinning, but they're also doing good. You know, they're preventing unjust laws, which Allah also says that not allowed.
Look, protest is seen as a mechanism in certain systems to raise your voice against certain things which people don't accept and agree, right? Okay. If there was a law being applied and people raised a large number of their disagreements and so on, then the body who legislates should take that into account and say, look, there seems to be, if we are going to look after the needs of the people, look, let's understand why people are disagreeing with it. In Islam, there are some differences, which is this. Muslims, when they believe in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, they believe in it wholeheartedly. And they want to implement it wholeheartedly. They're not going to say, I disagree with the law of the Prophet ﷺ when he said this. They want to apply that law because they love Allah and they love the Messenger. Love the Messenger of Allah. They want to apply it. Now, if you have a secular Muslim, liberal Muslim saying, oh, I don't want that because I want the inheritance law to be different than what's been already applied from the Quran and Sunnah, I mean, they can raise their voice, but the fact of the matter is, certain things when Islam has already given, they will not change at all. They will not change.
Because, of course, in Judaism and in Islam, because the commandments are so old, there's sometimes a confliction with society. For example, if you don't know what to do with your money or something, you go to like an imam, right? And you ask him what to do. So that, you know. So if
there's one thing just to cut you.
Continue my journey.
Just one thing. Just because a model of governance is old, it doesn't mean it's outdated.
I know, but
democracy is it recent thing?
No.
Democracy has been there for thousands of years, and yet people want democracy today.
But women can vote now. Black people can vote now.
But do you see? Democracy is a very ancient system, but people want it today.
But it's changed.
So what we're saying is, Islam
comes from the same principle.
Is seen as a very old system, but when you look at it in its entirety,
well,
the society, look how Islam deals with interactions with.
I agree with you. But many scriptures. This is why I keep my belief and I'm not an atheist. Because many of the scriptures, a lot of religious scriptures, can provide very useful life lessons on how, or morals, to run a society today. But it's not the exact wording, because, for example, it says to me, kill a Canaanite. There's no Canaanite, so today I'm not killing any Canaanites. You know? There's nothing, it's not the exact law which can be applied today, but it's the moral, and that's still the interpretation.
Sure. So what my request to you is to extend your journey, not from just connecting back to the Torah and the Talmud and the Mishnah and the Targum, if you are,
The Talmud.
but back, Talmud doesn't exist?
No, I thought you were making it wrong.
Talmud?
No, Talmud exists. Talmud, Mishnah,
Yeah, so I said Targum.
Does that exist?
Targums.
Oh yeah.
Mishnah.
Talmud. They're all in they're all in.
But Torah is your central basis. What I'm saying is reconnect yourself to the Quran. If you haven't done so, I've given you 3 examples of the unique features of the Quran. Do you remember what they were? Universality, the immutability, and what's the other one?
Is it the justice, like the law system?
No, I haven't said that yet. So this is what I'm going to tell you now. The Quran, to give its proof and evidence of its divine origin, it gives certain falsification tests.
Okay, can I give you something to take away from this as well?
Yeah, but let me finish my point and then you do that. Yeah? So what I'm saying, the third point, the Quran presents to people that it is free from all imperfections, discrepancies, errors, and contradictions. Contradictions. So it says, Had this been from anything other than God, from anyone other than God, surely they'll find many contradictions within it. So when you're going to examine the Quran, keep that in mind.
The thing I hate about people making like that, I know it's real to you, but you get people here arguing, a Christian and a Muslim arguing about contradictions. It's just futile. What I want to take away from this is, remember all those times when Muslims and Jews have lived happily together. I remember when we've been fucked over by the Christians and being messed up by the Christians and kept right, but when you hear in the Muslim community, and I'm sure you have heard, anti-Semitism, and when I go to hear my Orthodox Jewish cousins talking about Arabs and stuff like that, I'll tell them the same thing.
No, they exist. Anti-Semitism, anti-Islamism, everything exists. So anti-exists.
No, but a lot of anti-Semitism in the Muslim community.
People have shown this kind of emotional reaction to various other faith communities. For example, one of Muslims have felt deeply hurt of what Israel is currently doing, and because of this, they may react something totally wrongly.
Exactly.
That would be anti-Semitism, right?
Yeah. But there's also the same thing happens. Americans being Islamophobic because they're very upset with what happened. The exact same.
So what we are saying is, we shouldn't be anti-Semites because Arabs are Semitic people too. Muslims, Arab who are Muslims, they're also Semites. Yeah. So when we say anti-Semitism, this is what we need to be inclusive of. That includes the Muslims.
I'm a Sephardi Jew.
That includes the Muslims. So it's not just the Jewish people only, it's also the Muslims, the Arabs at the same time, the Arab Muslims.
Jews originally Arab. If the Jews white, then you know that
So yes, we need to come back to the living that we lived before in mutual tolerance, while understanding the difference between us.
So when you hear someone talking about anti-Semitism, not anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, will you challenge it?
Of course. How can a Muslim tolerate, for example, an insult to our cousins?
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say to you.
Do you know something? Do you know what the Quran says?
That's why I don't tolerate insults to Muslims.
The Quran says about other faith communities, do not insult other gods, lest they insult Allah in return. We can't insult, for example, pagan gods and so on and so forth, because if we did that, there is a chance that they will insult Allah back.
I don't apologize. I'm not a Muslim apologist. I'm just...
So I'm saying we should criticize injustice wherever it happens, whether it's done by Israel, whether it's done by Palestine, done by Muslims or Jews or non-Jews, atheists, Hindus, Christians, whatever. We should always speak for the truth. Exactly. We should stand We should stand as a right witness, as a just witness against what? All forms of tyranny or oppression and injustice, even if it goes against our own self, against our family, against our father, against our mother, against our brothers. This is what the teaching of Islam is.
Yeah, and people, it's the same thing as happened with Zionism. Many people argue that Zionism started with bad intentions. Some of it did, but it's the exact same thing. Zionism strives to create a perfect Jewish state, not a Jewish state that sins by killing our cousins. Zionism is a biblical thing.
As you can see, you're trying to bring the political understandings of reality of Zionism, and I'm trying to bring you the theological aspects of it. You've probably noticed this, okay? I'm not into political differences that people have.
I am.
People have political differences, okay? You can call yourself a Zionist, which you clearly said some kind of...
Not a traditional.
Okay, not a traditional, fine. You know what? Look, we can have political differences. We can have a discussion on the very nature of political differences of thought that we have.
Political differences to religious differences.
But I am inviting you to the core of the matter of reality, the core. The differences of politics emanate from what? Our understanding of the reality. Our understanding of reality should be based on who we are.
And that's what I mean.
We are a creation of God. And He asked us to look into the Quran as a final guidance. And this is where I'm going to leave you to, because I have to go and pray Maghrib. Okay? So nice talking to you, and we'll talk again, yeah?
Yeah.
Take care. If you haven't got a copy of the Quran, it's the time to get one and start reading and reflecting on it. Do ask the people here.